Hello everyone. This is gonna be a different video for my channel. Uh, Separate from all the rant videos or whatever, or anything else. This is going to be a devlog for my board game. So I'm creating it in Tabletop Simulator, and I have plans on getting a real life version, maybe whenever I get close to that. Anyways, the board game is uh, a wizard bullet hell game. So the premise of the whole game is there's how many ever people you want, uh, playing against each other, and they throw spells at each other. Uh, so and you can move to dodge these spells and stuff, and you draw cards to get spells. And let me pull up the rule book real quick. Uh, it's in this little blinding document. So the turn order, there are 4 phases. You draw a card, then you move, and you cast, and the spells move. So the draw phase, each player draws 1 card, starting at the first person and glowing clockwise. Movement phase, each player decides which way they're going to dodge via their player board, and sets their board on the table hidden somehow. Casting, each player may only play 1 card either before or after the player moves by setting it face down onto the table. If cards are played before the players move, then everyone reveals their player board and the card is revealed. After the spells are finished in the before section, then the players move, and the players who didn't play a card during the before section have a chance to play a card now. During the card phase, any cards that are played have their corresponding tokens placed on the board and the card placed into the initiative order. Whoever set their card down first is put into the initiative order first. And then at the end of the turn order, it is the spell phase, which moves each spell in the game. So this is the very first prototype of the game. I played it by myself, just seeing if the concept was there. I have since changed a bunch of stuff. We can go to... Alright, accidentally stopped recording there. But we can go to version 1.1. The previous was 1.0. And I'm testing some player board ideas. So this is the basic format. I did some Blender stuff over here and over here. So basically the gist of is you draw which way you're moving with this player board. In this player board you get a token and you place it in these individual spots to designate which space you're moving to. And then these were just tests to figure out the collision in Tabletop Simulator. So pretty bare bones right now, still don't have any cards to play with, just trying to figure out the main rules and how the game's going to function. I really want a simple player board, so a lot of people can play together without me having to print a ton of player boards. So maybe I was thinking that maybe I have a pretty cool looking player board, but then have it function simply so other players can mimic it on like a piece of paper or something. That's what I was thinking. All right. And this is the version 1.2. And I got my friend in here and we were talking about stuff and he thought it was a pretty cool idea. We were talking about spell ideas like structures and all of that. And he thought of the idea of having a circle closing in on you, kind of like a battle royale type sense. And I thought the idea was really cool because I've always thought that we needed to limit the space somehow for groups of smaller than like 3 people. Because if you have all this space to work with, then you just you last forever, basically. So if you limit it somehow, kind of like this, it would make the games go faster. And we thought that the bouncing off of walls and stuff of spells were pretty cool too. And I told him about all my card ideas, like I was going to have cards that are modifier cards, defense cards, structure cards, and spell cards. Spell cards are these little things you see right here. They're just spells that bounce back and forth. They're mainly for damage and stuff. Structures are going to be for building stuff. Defenses is going to be, of course, defense cards. And modifier cards are, you can place them on a spell or structure card, and that will allow you to modify that card, of course. Alright, now we're on to version 1.3, and this is where I am today, where I started to want to do my devlog. So this is my Blender reconstruction of how the zones will work. It's like little puzzle pieces that you would stick together in real life. Of course, you can't really do that in Tabletop Simulator. But you would stick these together and you would create like a border, and it'd slowly get smaller and smaller. I've only created 2 so far because I'm not very good at Blender. But yeah, so we got a bunch of stats on the cards. I can go into these. Well, first I have to show you the card template, what it looks like. So I use this little free version of Photoshop to do all my editing and stuff, and this is the first template I made. It looks pretty good and stuff, but it was fundamentally harming the card because I don't have much space to put a description of the card if it requires it. The numbers aren't big enough. Like, all of the numbers are kind of the same size, even though they're not all the same amount of importance. So I ended up scrapping this and creating my own, which I'm sorry for these little lines and stuff, but I need them to stay, so I can't just get rid of them. So I made a centerpiece which would hold the picture in the middle right here. You can write a description that goes all the way around the centerpiece, because people can just rotate the card if they want to read it. There's damage, speed, radius, which is red is damage, of course. Blue is speed. This is how many spaces the spell moves. When absent, the spell doesn't move. And radius, this is how many tiles away the card can activate from. Then there's haste, blast, and timer that I have so far. So those aren't that important because you don't need to know them. You only need to know them once, or you only need to know them after the card activates. So haste is, if the card has haste, it moves that much during the card phase only once before the spell phase. So I know it's written a little poorly, but what it's trying to say is haste is only used once. So if a card has 4 haste, it moves 4 times, or it moves 4 spaces before the spell phase. But haste is only a one-time use, and it activates immediately as you place the card. Yellow is timer, of course, how many turns the card lasts for. Not all cards are going to have a timer. Violent is, I don't have it on there, nor do I have orange or pink, but violent is lingering, how many turns the blast radius lasts for. Orange is block, it's typically on block cards. Pink is health, and it's typically on structure cards. I have a couple of spells down here that have a couple of names. Just 3 of them have names. A couple of the other ones are just still colors, back from my version 1.1 or 1.0. So this one is, there's Fireball, it moves 2, explodes when it hits a player, and it deals 4 damage. Gas Ball moves 3 first, which is haste, then 1, and it has a radius of 2 and 3 damage. lightning strike, it has a haste of 7, then speed 5, radius of 0, and 1 damage. If a card doesn't have any radius, then it is only the spot that the spell occupies. So a couple of little things up here. I was thinking about a little funky way, a little cool way to get your pieces onto the board instead of like just placing them like down randomly, or placing them down like 10 spaces away from each other or something, because that was going to be like a kind of weird rule to make. So instead, I have it where you grab a dice and you throw it onto the board. Where it lands is where it stays, to the nearest square, of course. And then you decide who is going to go first, and whoever goes first can pick one of those dice spots and swap it out for their player character. And then it keeps going until all players are on the board, and then the game begins. Then you go to the turn order. So I already described this one, and I described that one, and I have not described this one. So it's going to be pretty hard to keep up with cards on the board after it's bullet hell, basically. There's going to be a ton of cards on the board. So how I have it is there's initiative order anywhere that you want to place it, but typically I put it underneath the board. So it goes from top down and left to right. So I don't have any cards right now, but I can get some random cards here and give you a description of how it works. So the initiative order is mainly there to help you remember which cards you need to move, because there's going to be a lot. You might forget which ones to move and stuff. So it would go from this one to this one, then down here, then to over there. Like I said, mainly there to help you remember which ones to move. Once they're either activated or their timer is up, they go into a discard pile over here. And how you get these spells is that they're all going to be shuffled into one deck. It's going to be a couple of hundred cards, maybe 200 to 300. Maybe. I don't know yet. But they're going to be given out randomly. So I think I decided on 6 cards each player. Each player gets 6 cards at the start. And then they draw 1. And they can play up to 1 per turn. So you'll have 7 on your turn. I might lower it in the future, I don't know. But it's all in this one thing. So you kind of play with what you get, sort of. Which I kind of like. It gives a little randomness and strategy to if you can play this card, basically. So that is where I am now in my board game. Not very far. It's not even playable yet. But like I said, I'm trying to get all of the things in concrete before I start playtesting it and stuff. And I would like to replace this artwork here because it is not mine currently. So I'll probably end up replacing it with some mediocre drawing because, of course, it's just a prototype for right now. But it's very promising. I do say that, and hopefully I can show y'all some playtests soon. And with that said, Bye-bye.